All right, well, good morning, everyone, both in the room and those who've joined us by Zoom. We'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is that we have a guest speaker, Bruce McAndrews, to give a report of the Insurance Committee. Bruce?
Thank you, Doctor. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Happy Friday to you. It's not very often I get top billing, so I don't think I've ever had top billing. Just a brief scenario, and I won't hold you too long this morning as far as I'm concerned, but just let you know what's going on with the Insurance Committee, where we've been, where we have come to, and where we're going to go. And I guess I'm going to start out with just a little bit of history of the Insurance Committee. As you all know, Foxfire has always had an insurance committee overseeing some of the insurance proceeds that go for, as far as Foxfire is concerned. As you know, most of you know, standing committees changed their charters last year, year before. I forget when we had to do that, but I think the issue for the Insurance Committee is that our charter is more bang for the buck, I guess, is the way I put it, for the Foxfire community. And as you all know, the insurance portion of our line item budget is a very large portion. It's probably 6% of the line item as far as that's concerned. So it's an area that requires some close scrutiny, and I'm very grateful to have a bunch of guys on our committee that have had some insurance experience, and those that haven't are savvy business people that have been dealing with insurance perhaps in their businesses, etc. So I'm grateful for those guys. The process of renewal, as many of you know, last year, the Insurance Committee decided to go out to bid with a new insurance agency. We put it out to several agencies, actually, and the only one that was happy to put forth a bid was the Gulf Shore Insurance Company. And so we did that, and we had, I guess, a plethora of quotes coming through and so on and so forth from them. And we finally decided that as much as I adhere to loyalty to old agencies and agents and customers, et cetera, I did in my agency business, it was time for Foxfire to make a change. And I think that the net result, as you will see this year, as I proceed in this small speech, is that we made the right choice as of today. We hope that holds true. We did change agents. As I said, our representative from the Gulf Shore Insurance is Ryan Schmidt, and he's done a good job of putting our package policy, our bundling of our insurances together, and coming up with some excellent companies, which I'll expound on later, and also coming up with some reasonable premiums in our consider things. I just want to give the board, again, not to bore you all, but just a little scenario of what's going on if you haven't followed the insurance business and other businesses that we've had in the pandemic, et cetera. There have been, as you all know, a number of catastrophic losses that have been going on, or catastrophic occurrences that have been going on in the world. I'm not just talking about Florida. I'm talking about beyond the hurricanes and the tornadoes. I'm talking about the wildfires, and we're talking about, believe it or not, global warming and some other issues that impact the companies that insure us, not only directly but indirectly, and I'll explain that also in a minute. So I think that you ought to know that this marketplace that we call it right now is what we call a hardening of the market. And what has happened is that these insurance companies, not only the ones, not just the Aetna, the Travelers, the Cigna, and all the ones, the large ones, but there are what we call reinsurance companies that sit on top of the policies that we have those basic coverages with, and those are our reinsurers, if you will. And some of you are familiar with AIG, for instance, et cetera. And they are experiencing a serious problem. And one of the problems they have right now is they don't know how to underwrite the anticipated losses of these catastrophic occurrences. They really don't, and they're scrambling to see what's happening. And one of the issues, and some of you may experience this increase in your homeowner's policy. I'm not so sure about condo policy. My policy, homeowner's policy had a tremendous increase this year. And the homeowner policies as directly affected by hurricanes, et cetera, down here. The companies that underwrite that are still experiencing this trickle-down effect from the catastrophic losses. And most importantly, as was pointed out by our agent the other day, one of the largest issues the insurance companies are facing right now is lawsuits. There is a tremendous amount of lawsuits that are out there pending against the insurance companies because, number one, they haven't been able to pay the claims yet for Irma and other past hurricanes. Or number two, they have to litigate a claim, and Ryan mentioned it, our agent mentioned it the other day. If a homeowner has a couple of tiles lost on their roof as a result of wind damage, the owner is expecting a whole new roof. And so what they're doing is they are suing the company for the new roof, whereas the company's not responsible for that. So they are tied up in all kinds of litigation as far as that's concerned right now. So that's impacting rates, et cetera. And again, it trickles down to you. So some of you may have experienced that. If you're happy with your homeowner's agent, that's fine. But if not, have them sharpen their pencil if you've experienced an increase in that. So that having been said, we've got this hardening of the market. And I will also add that there are basically two ways for an insurance. I mean, insurance companies are in business to make money. They're in business to make money. None of us are in business to lose money. And one of the issues they've had in the past is they've had not only making money based on premium generation, but they also make money on the reinvestment of the premiums they collect. That's one of the ways they have to stay afloat, if you will. They do have to, by state law, maintain a particular surplus to pay their losses out. But if they have the premiums and they have enough to cover what their projected loss on that particular risk is, then they take that excess and they reinvest it. Well, we all know what the marketplace is doing as far as reinvestment and return of percentages on our reinvestments lately. So the insurance companies are getting a kind of a triple whammy, if you will, as far as this whole process is concerned. So I just give you that little bit of background. We started the renewal process for this year's April 1 renewal for the Foxfire insurance portfolio on January 28th of this year. Some of you may question, why don't we start it sooner so we can go to more companies, et cetera, and really to go any sooner than that would be dipping into the marketplace way too early for an April renewal. Too many changes could take place between that time if we started in November or December. So we started in January, and that's where we initiated the process with our current agent, Ryan. We were appraised on January 28th by Ryan that we would probably be facing some serious, because of the scenario I just gave you, some serious increase in our Foxfire premiums, particularly on the whole package policy. And he was alluding to the fact that we may be looking at 15 to 20% this year. And while I personally, and perhaps some of the other committee members weren't startled by that, that's a huge chunk if you look at what we've been paying previously. So we went into, Ryan had his charge, get those numbers down as low as you possibly can in the interest of Foxfire and our expenditures, what have you. So on March 17th, just 2 days ago, we did meet with our agent, Ryan, and via Zoom, and he came in with some numbers. And I think that you have a few copies of some sheets in front of you to give you just a brief overview of what's happening with this. I think if you all received page 4, you may have at the top company summary. This is a list of the companies that Gulf Shore not only has access to, but they have solicited and are using to underwrite the insurance for Foxfire. And I think one of the interesting things to note here is that we are dealing with, or Gulf Shore Insurance has us insured by companies that are A-rated or better. And I've included the second page, I believe Donald included the second page as to how the rating works for insurance companies based on their financial stability, loss payment, and there's a litany of things that go into that. But the most important thing is that we are dealing and are insured currently by companies that are absolutely positively running in the black. They're solvent, they're rock solid. Some of the names may not be familiar to you because some of our coverages are kind of niche marketing coverages for our, our executive liability or our EDP policy or whatever the case may be. So, but I've included this just so you know and have a comfort level as a board representing Foxfire that we are dealing with companies that, as I refer to, are not swamp gas mutual, dealing out of somebody's garage down in a particular state. So we've included the list of companies and their rating, and so that gives me and our committee members a great comfort level as far as who we're dealing with and who is representing our best interest as far as that's concerned. I believe in your quick small packet there, we've also included a premium summary. And we put this in there just so you have an idea of what some of the costs are for the various coverages that are necessary for us to purchase to keep us in good shape for our insurance purposes. You'll notice that there are a couple of footnotes there. So when I use the term 15 to 20%, when Ryan met with us Wednesday, we were, I will say, pleasantly surprised to realize that our premium has gone up roughly about 3.5%, perhaps just 10% more over last year. And that's what I'm going to be very honest with you folks, that startled me. It startled me to be so low. But I think a couple of factors have to play into that. First of all, as there's a footnote there, we have to keep insurance to value on our buildings, and they're appraised every single year to make sure that we have that insurance to value, and that guarantees us replacement costs should we have a total loss on some of those buildings, and we need to replace them as they stand and with like kind and quality. So those values are mandated to be kept up to snuff, and in order to be kept up to snuff, sometimes that generates an increased premium. And you can see in the footnote that the insurance values increased by 7% from 11 million plus to 12 million plus. And so that, as part of the overall increase in our premium, is the bulk of our increase. The rest is just normal rate increase, et cetera, et cetera. So our package policy went up just a few percentage points, if you will, over last year, which is great news for us. I'll talk about next year in a couple minutes. But that's good news for us as far as that's concerned. You'll note I think it's not on here, but our workers' compensation, as you all know, the safety committee's done a great job since their inception to keep our workers' comp rates down and our experience mod down. We did increase slightly this year from 0.94 is our experience now to 0.96. That's not terrible. One is perhaps the benchmark as far as 1.0. Once we get above that number, and as many of you may remember, Foxfire was years ago experiencing some tremendous premiums, being walloped with tremendous premiums because our experience mod was above that based on accident frequency, et cetera, et cetera. So 0.96 is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. The other thing, we put a few notes in there as far as the named storm deductible. These are some of the options that were presented to the committee. You can see that the named storm deductible can be reduced from 5% to 3% for an additional premium of almost $10,000. The committee's recommendation is that we do not do that. Obviously, that's up to the board, but we feel that it's incumbent upon us as Foxfire as a community to reinsure or self-insure, if you will, some of this stuff. And the chances of us having the total loss to experience this 2% differential is probably slim to none in this community. So we recommend that we don't spend that extra money on the lower lower deductible. And keep in mind also, that's a named storm by the National Weather Service. It's not a heavy duty wind. That has to be a named storm. You may experience a gust of wind in one corner of Foxfire and it's not blowing in the other, and you say, I had all this happening. It has to be a named storm before any of that takes place. So I think that that's one of the recommendations, that we do not buy that lower deductible, if you will, for this year. Some of the other notes that were in there, of course, the expiring premiums, the annualized premium, and that one of our policies was a 3-year policy, and that will be expiring in September. Most of our policies run from April 1 to April 1. It'll be expiring September of this year. So that premium has been guaranteed for that particular. You also have a note here is that's on the executive risk, that the herbicide pesticide coverage is being removed from the general liability, since we do have a site pollution policy already in place. There was a duplication of coverage there that we didn't need to have. So that was removed as far as that's concerned. And one other thing, his note here is that the renewal premium is down due to a decrease in Florida rates. Yes, that's partially true, but I'd like to also make a comment about Foxfire. We're a community that has insured itself properly, I'll use that term, and we also take great pride in our community. That's my observation. I think you'll all, and I hope you all agree, we maintain our buildings, and we are careful about watching our accident frequency, et cetera, and we pay our premiums on time, and we just run a great ship here. That's the way it is, and so that makes us very palatable as far as our risk is concerned for these companies. So that also helps us get a lower premium, if you will, or a lower rate, which results in a lower premium for ourselves. So keep that in mind, and we are prepared as the insurance committee and the insurance company itself, Gulfshare Insurance as our agency. When the improvements take place under the strategic plan, we're ready to hop into it and start putting sprinkler systems in there. The day that first pipe is put in there, we will be covering the sprinkler system accordingly, or the day that the first block is put down for whatever new cart barn building, whatever you may have, we're ready to find that coverage effectively. So we don't have to worry about any of that taking place. So those are some of the factors that are going into that also, and we have a great community here, we really do. And
Bruce,
I will also say that so I'm sorry, Doctor, do you want a question? No?
Yeah, could
Please
you elaborate on footnote 5 there?
Yeah, I had a question about that. The crime.
Crime quote subject to confirmation of board approval is required for reserve fund access. The crime policy that we have covering crime, internal theft, et cetera, that requires us to go into our reserve fund should we have to make restitution immediately for whatever has been absconded with. So that's just I don't know how to put it otherwise. That you see the footnote, and basically that's the premium, and that's one of the things that the board does have to access our reserve fund at some point in time, should we have a loss. That's in the reference to a loss only. So that's one of the few conditions. I think you're probably going to ask me for a good example, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but that is what we basically are faced with.
I'll say somebody's golf cart was on our property and it got stolen. And would that be
No,
an
No,
example
this
of
is
this?
the crime
No.
policy.
this is more fraud and whatnot. Someone comes
Okay.
into-
Yeah.
All right, so
Someone gets into
say,
the operating account and writes a check out, double checks people, and
okay, so say that happens. we would have to make restitution immediately out
Not
of.
to the insurance company, we would have to dip into our reserve fund to
ourselves.
make sure, yes,
Yes, okay,
for reimbursement later on. That's the policy.
I see.
That tapping into the reserve fund may have to occur to keep us afloat.
All right,
If
and
they got-
that wording is in the policy?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so
Yes, it
that's
is.
required if we accept it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
it
understand.
is, Deputy.
Now, Bruce, footnote 9, review the dividend options.
Yes, I haven't got to that page yet, Doctor, but
Okay.
we'll go to that right now. I don't think, Donald, did we give them, I didn't ask you to give them the dividend page options, did I?
No, we
Okay.
just, we,
Let me just go to my, my back page here.
the bird in the hand.
Under our workers' compensation program, we have, Florida statutes allow certain dividend plans to be offered to certain risks. And one of our particular company offers these dividend plans. And just let me remind you, a dividend is strictly an overpayment of premium. That's all it is. If we needed $10 last year to cover our risk, but we paid 15, we get the $5 back. That's a simple oversimplification of how the dividend works. So Zenith offers various dividend plans whereby you can take the 15% dividend that we're entitled to and get it up front. In other words, the year of, or you can go on some options where you're not going to get the full 15%. You're going to take a small portion of that, let the company hopefully reinvest it on your part and get some more money on the tail end of it. The committee's recommendation, which is why that footnote is in there, that we take the 15% up front this year. It was that way last year also. Ms. Donald's at a bird in the hand. Right now, as you all know, finances are crucial for us. And I think that the 15% is better off in our pocket going into the inception of the policy than trying to wait and see to what happens on the other end. So hopefully the board agrees with that. If they don't, that's entirely up to the position of the board. If someone needs an explanation of the other dividend plans offered, perhaps see me at the meeting because they can be a little intricate. So I just don't want to take all of the time. But that's how that's basically what that is, Doctor. So.
On the first page, under company summary, under the commercial property line of coverage, you have about, I don't know, about 10 participating carriers, Lloyd's and Union Harbor. Are those reinsurers? Are they participating in the risk? And is it fronted by American Risk? Is our property coverage spread out through all those carriers?
Yeah, some, Jim, some are what we call excess and some are direct. So we may be, under our commercial property, we may have insurance with ABC, and then they also have to put out the rest of the risk out to Lloyd's of London, for instance, which is one of the most well-known.
Yeah.
So that's why they're listed here. These are all of the carriers, and that's why he uses the term various participating. Amherst is simply a program that is a niche marketing program for bundled golfing communities.
So if we have a property claim, we just deal through our own agency and he goes after the various carriers?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. That's why we have Gulf Shore in our back pocket, if you will.
Gulf Shore is very easy to put a claim through.
Okay.
So that he's just delineated each company that we are actually doing business with, either indirectly or directly, as far as that's concerned. Is that good?
Yeah, I guess that's what I thought. From that.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
Bruce, do we have any coverage for like cyber?
yes.
Yeah,
Oh, cyber liability,
Yeah.
and it's coming up in September.
That is,
Yeah, that renews in September. That renews in September.
That's a small add-on we usually sign when we go here.
Yeah,
Same with terrorists, you have the option to sign right in there, sign up for that.
Does that include ransomware? Does that include ransomware?
well, as far as terrorism is concerned, you have the option of signing in for terrorism or signing out for terrorist coverage.
Yeah.
We always opted to sign out of it, not to include that. That's a premium that's another country heard from. The cyber liability is really for us, our system's getting hacked.
Mhm.
And anything that we can't retrieve as far as that's concerned, that's where the cyber,
So that would be ransomware.
it could be, yeah, it could very well be technical. Yeah.
Yeah, because that,
I was thinking of ransom for terrorism and so on and so forth, so that's, it could be ransomware as far as that's concerned. But yeah, we have that coverage.
does that pay the ransom?
It pays is subject to recompensation if we recover that in some way, shape, or form.
No.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the bond, we had to pay it back. So that's a very brief scenario of what's going on here for our package policy. I'm just, all I can say is that, and I'll certainly entertain any questions whatsoever. But I do feel that the committee as a whole has done its job to make sure that we're getting, I use the term, more bang for our buck as far as Foxfire is concerned. And we're looking quite good for April 1st for the renewal is concerned. Some of you may be concerned that this is March 19th and April 1st is around the corner. I believe pending a vote to accept the proposal as put forth this morning, if that's accepted, then Donald's ready to step into action and sign the paperwork that Gulf Shore needs to put everything in place. There's full binding authority on all of these, so we will certainly not be without coverage for any minute. After the renewal date. Again, I made that short and sweet. The only thing I can add to that is you may ask me where are we headed for 2022. I have no clue. I have no clue. My suggestion, let's enjoy the lower premium this year. I think an $8,000 increase is absolutely incredible. I do know, because I have not only relatives, but friends in other bundled communities, their increases have gone from anywhere upon renewal this year from 15 to 20%, just as Brian had warned us in our original meeting, as far as that's concerned. So I think we're kind of, maybe the board doesn't see it that way, but as a person that used to work in the industry.
Keep in mind that you're just starting up with Gulf Shore, and they're taking their overhead costs to keep them going if they want to be in there. Okay.
Well,
The longer you're with, you're gonna find out the longer you're with a company, the more the increases go up because there's a comfort level there, they can add more money on.
Well,
Their own company.
that may be partially true, except Gulf Shore as an independent agent, which is what I was.
Oh, really?
We make our
Greg
money.
Habermeyer?
Pardon?
I know Greg Habermeyer.
We made our money on commission, which is where Gulf Shore.
I understand they make commissions, which, but they also have their threshold they add in. Now, as you're with any agent longer, that threshold grows. So that's why you see disparaging numbers sometimes.
Do you need a motion to accept this?
Well, first of all, are there any other questions for Bruce?
No, I just want to say thanks to the committee and to the new agents that are doing such a nice job. I'm pleased to see that the premium increase is not the 20% that we've seen in some of the other policies. So
I hope you say the same thing to me, Jim, when it's to March of 2020. If I had a crystal ball to project that, I'd be a billionaire.
Yeah, right.
I'd be having lunch.
but thank you, seriously. It's a lot of work, a lot of detail.
And please thank the other members of your committee as well.
Will do.
Roger, did you have anything you wanted to add as liaison?
You know what, I had the pleasure of sitting with the entire insurance group, and Bruce is the chair, Tom Walbillig, Paul Moskowitz, and Tim O'Neill are all part of it. Three of them have had insurance industry practice as individual agents, so they know the industry thoroughly. One of them was instrumental in correcting some laws in the state of Maine for workman's compensation. Thoroughly understand it. It just, as each of you believe, one of the great strengths of this community is having talented members who are willing to invest their time and their interest and their experience to help all of us. And that goes for every one of the 175 plus committee members in the standing committees. They've done a great job on this. I'll do the anecdotal like anybody else. As a single family homeowner, my insurance, homeowner's insurance, went up 17% this past December. I have no handle on what might be happening in multiple family units, but the pricing is going up. It is a firm market that even a layman can see and understand. And these guys have done just a fabulous job of managing. When I say that these guys, these four members, done a great job in managing our risk. First saying, well, let's jump to a new agency, an agency that handles 25 other common interest communities just like us. They give us great cost savings, and they are protecting us for the safety of these buildings, and they watch it on an ongoing basis. The price for us, as Bruce has said, it's going up 3.5%. We had to budget for this from a financial standpoint last June, and the budget called for $259,000 for the workman's comp and the property and casualty insurance. So not only do we have a modest increase this year, we're going to have cost savings against our budget, and that helps us marshal our funds. So they did a great job, and I heartily endorse what they've done. I really appreciate it.
Okay, was there a motion to approve access to the reserve fund to secure our crime insurance?
You're gonna, with the crime insurance, how much is the deductible? Remember, every insurance policy that any of us have, we have deductibles. I think it's probably about $50,000, isn't it, Bruce?
Keep talking, Roger, and I'll.
You gotta be careful when you tell Roger to keep going.
I was going there too. I thought I'd take that. I wasn't gonna go. I was-
An open wound.
So I guess what we're saying is we're authorizing access to the reserve fund for the amount of the deductible,
You'd have to go to the reserve fund.
if necessary.
If
It may be more
necessary.
than the deductible. I mean, I believe what he said
What it
was
will
that we
be
would have to
would be
repay the entire amount.
deductible plus you would actually take it from the reserve fund to make good on the debt that was stolen or whatever.
Right.
Money that was stolen, and then they will eventually reimburse that money less the deductible.
Right.
So, yeah, we would be initially have to do the
But
entire
it
thing.
keeps your operating account, if it comes out of operating, it keeps you liquid with your operating account.
Should we say which reserve fund? I assume it would be repair and replace, right? Because we're replacing. Am I wrong?
I don't think it would really make too much difference.
Bruce, what is the recommendation of the insurance committee?
As far as the reserve, Roger?
Well, in terms of funding this.
Well, I'm not familiar how we fund Coxfire funds non-recoverable losses with respect to the deductibles, which is really kind of where the category you're pulling it out of. I'm not sure where that comes from. Maybe you can tell me.
I'm a little The note says crime quote, subject to confirmation that board approval is required for reserve, which it sounds like you can't get into the reserve fund unless board approval is given.
Right.
So that would be
And we're
not.
so
the
not
blanket.
authorizing
would
it,
be-
but that we confirm that before you can tap the reserve fund, you have to come back to the board for approval. That's what it sounds like. Is that what
Basically,
they're
what happens
asking?
if you don't have a line item in your reserve fund for crime insurance and whatnot, we'd be voting on putting a line item in there. And like you have reserves for roads, reserves, these are all written into the line items. You have to have a line item in that this reserve can be used for that purpose.
You know, it's a
And
pool.
that's the way it's written, and we're not gonna raise the rate from 239. The premium is still gonna be 239.
Yes.
It said the quote is subject to confirmation that the board approves it.
Mhm.
So if you don't approve access to the reserve fund, the quote is
Moot point.
moot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I think we have to,
yeah. You're agreeing to complying with
Right.
it. The board is agreeing to comply with the terms of the.
Right,
policy.
okay.
Yeah.
let's put
And
it
Roger,
that-
yes, it is 50,000 on the employee theft.
Yep.
50,000 on forgery.
That's
We
the
have,
coverage or the deductible?
Deductible, our coverage is 5 million. Fund transfer fraud is 5 million. Inside, outside limits, that's really anybody going to the bank with cash is $100,000. So Donald, be careful when you take that too much.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We do have computer fraud and telecommunication fraud, et cetera. So those are the deductible, the major deductible, $50,000 that we could be subjected to.
Yeah. And
Is there a motion to approve access to the reserve fund to comply with the crime quote?
So
I'll make
moved.
that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay. The second thing is, does the board want to approve the 15% flat dividend?
Let me comment about it. As I listened to the four insurance experts, this largely applies to the workman's compensation. So it gives us a lower rate, and even in the new quote, we are reducing our premium from $52,000 to $49,000 as a result of accepting 15%. If we have, there's risk, and if we want to take on more risk, we can get 21%. But you better hope that we have 0 accidents here. Because each time you drop, each time you increase workman's compensation types of issues, somebody stumbles, cuts a hand, has to go to the hospital for something, that's going to work against us. And it can go all the way down to 0 if it gets too high. The 15% strikes me for a community like ours to be the appropriate measure and go with it. It's worked for us in the past. We have consistently moved workman's compensation down largely through the safety committee over the course of the past 4 or 5 years. And I know that that operations is committed to the safety committee. And I think the 15% is a logical way to go.
As opposed to getting all the money, or right, not having any deductible.
As opposed to ending up with 0. We have to pay it back, in other words, at the end of the
If
year.
we didn't take the 15%.
Yes.
If I could just throw one more adjunct onto that. I think the page that you don't have, because we didn't want to give you 20 pages of reading material this morning, and they'll certainly become available to all the board members right after this meeting, or some good staff gets it printed. This premium, this 15% dividend is payable 3 months after our renewal premium. That means after April 1st, by June, we're going to get 15% back in our pocket. based on our audited premium. We have the option, one of the options is to defer that dividend until policy expiration. And then that dividend, if you will, is based on the audited premium then. And who knows where that might be.
Well, is it kind of based on loss ratios over the year? In other words, if our loss ratio is too high, the dividend we would get would decrease?
That is correct. That is
And
correct.
so what we're doing is, and as Roger said, I think if we have 0 losses, we can get a 21% rebate. Workers' comp's the only policy I know of that talks about giving you rebates or refund. And if you have no claims at all, you get 21%. If you have claims that exceed your premium, then you get 0% back. And so now they're taking a chance on us and saying, we'll give you 15% back as long as you agree that's what you're gonna take. And that, I agree with Roger. I think that makes sense. I think that's 3/4 of what we could get in maximum, and it's certainly a lot more than we get if we had a series of catastrophic losses in the workers' comp area. So that makes sense.
And it's not a program that everybody's eligible for either. That's one of the
That's
caveats.
number one, and number two,
Exactly.
not all companies offer it either.
Well, yeah, they
Right.
gotta have confidence in us that we got
Right.
to offer us 15%, but that workers' comp, like I said, is typically sold with that refund hanging out there.
Mhm.
And that's about the only line of insurance that they deal in that. But I agree. I mean, if the maximum we can get is 20% and they're willing to pay us 15% now, no questions asked, I would say about this.
Okay, so is there
At the, right after the renewal, the 50% or at the end of the year?
3 months
3 months.
after, yeah, it
Okay.
usually takes 3 months for our audit to take place after April 1st, so
Okay.
we'll be getting it around July,
Okay.
as we did last year.
I'll second it.
second, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We might as well jump ahead in the agenda to the insurance committee. Is there a vote to adopt the property and casualty insurance as presented this morning?
I move that we adopt the insurance plan and program outlined for us by the insurance committee, and thank you for their work.
I second that.
This is the second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Bruce, thank you very much.
Yeah,
And
thank
again, thanks the remaining members of your committee.
Yeah, thank you, folks. And just as a footnote, I'm not sure if Roger was going to mention it or not, but we are looking for one more committee member. If anybody has someone that they think would be interested in sitting on our committee. We've had the number, we're short one member, if you will, right now. One member went to the Greens Committee, so he gave up the Insurance Committee. And we'd be interested in finding, and the person doesn't necessarily have to have a total insurance background. We're sort of the 3 of us that sit in there, 4 of us, that we're certainly not gurus by any means. We've been retired for a while, so, but we certainly educate them and bring them up to speed. And Roger has gone on quite quickly because of his business acumen. So if you know of anyone that's interested in coming on committee, be happy to talk to them. Roger, were you going to mention me?
We've asked, I'd like to recommend that Bruce remain as the chair of this particular committee. We need some new blood to come in to replace. Bruce would tell you, he'd be the first to tell you he's getting a little long in the tooth in terms of his committee membership. But I'd like to see him stay with us as chair of this particular committee.
Bruce, how long have you been on the committee?
I think 7 years now or 6, and I think 5 years is the tenure that's recommended by our bylaws. So
5 years.
I'm beyond expiration.
You willing to stay on and do this again?
I am if the board's willing to have me.
Yeah, make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that Bruce McAndrews remain the chair of the committee. And I know that he's going to find that 5th person to step into the insurance committee as well.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, again, thank you.
Thank you,
for-
folks.
Thank you for the good news and the bad news.
And if you and the committee, if you and the committee can just hold down the hurricanes this season.
Well, that's another crystal ball if I had,
We'd
gentlemen.
appreciate that.
Just for your own edification, the name storm does not have to hit us. The name storm has to be in a box. There's a box outside of Florida, it's up in Jacksonville, and we're getting wind damage down here, it's still considered a name storm.
Correct.
Okay, Kathy, is anybody registered desire to speak on the agenda?
No.
If not, we'll move on to the minutes of our previous board meeting of February 19th, starting on page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. At the top social committee, Mr. Saunders stated that the Health and Wellness Committee is requesting the board's approval of 2 additional members. Is it the social committee is requesting? 2
It
additional?
is the social, yeah,
Okay.
yes,
So, just delete the Health and Wellness.
it's social.
Okay. And finally, page 7. Motion to accept the minutes. Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Linda. Well done as always. General- General, yes, Mr. Secretary. General Manager's report. General.
Good morning, everybody. So first and foremost, with regard to our COVID update, at this point in time, we do not have any members who have reported testing positive in the last 2 weeks to our office. And at the same time, we do not have any employees who are COVID positive as of this moment. We did send out an email last week that we are setting up for a community vaccination with the Collier County Department of Health. And we're working out the details on when the link will be sent to us to send to the members or and put on our website. As of right now, the tentative date for that vaccination event is Monday, March 29th. And the way that's coordinated is the Department of Health will send us a link for sign up through the Eventbrite platform. We'll distribute that through our community, and then sign up will be on a first come, first served basis. They are making 200 vaccines available that day. So they are making 200 vaccines available. When we did our survey of the membership, we had approximately 170 or so that responded that they would sign up for that event. So that I think that the 200 vaccines will suffice based on the information that we have received. We have several members who I would estimate at about 70% of members who are eligible, who have already been vaccinated and received their first vaccination.
I'm sorry, can you clarify, did you say 70%?
I said 70% of our members
Have gotten the first vaccine?
based on the little
Oh, the survey?
the survey we did for the see, on the survey on the website, not everybody did that.
Oh, okay.
But based on what the county averages are right now, based on our polls at Trivia
Yeah.
and what's being reported in local news, that's probably the best estimate at this point in time is that 70% of our members have received the first dose, those who are eligible.
Yes.
And Donald, the 200, is that 200 Foxfire members
Yep,
that have it?
they're going to put 200 for the Foxfire community.
Great.
So anybody who's 60 or older, who's affiliated with the Foxfire community, will be able to sign up through that link. The event will not be at Foxfire. It'll be at the North Naples Community Park, where the water park is off of Livingston Road. One of the reasons that I was told why they're limiting it to 200 is there's a lot of communities and other organizations that have signed up for, 300 vaccines and 175 people showing up. So there's 100 vaccines that are wasted. So we were fortunately one of the first in line. So that's why I believe we got a date in March. And then they will also coordinate the second shot as well.
And you'll get employees in if there's.
Yes. The other thing is that we're getting information from, and this will go out at next week's email, the Naples Senior Center. I had someone drop this off to me last night at trivia, but for anybody who's over the age of 70, they can contact the Naples Senior Center directly. And the Naples Senior Center will send a link to that individual, and they'll help them sign up for their vaccines, both the first and the second dose. But that will actually go out in our email as well this week. But that was just dropped off to me last night at trivia, at the end of trivia. So all in all, I don't know if you've been, I'm sure most of you have watched this, but even this week when the news was reporting the sign up at Publix, they weren't getting it's quite as heavy as an overload of people signing on. Now, not everybody's getting in, obviously, but normally it's filled up within the first few minutes, and they're reporting this week that that wasn't the case. So whether or not that's accurate or not, I don't know, but it seems as though when we're discussing vaccines with people who will discuss the subject with us, it seems like 7 out of 10 in all cases who are eligible have been vaccinated. With regard to our golf and social events, we are going to continue to operate the way we have been with modified operations, primarily having all the dining outdoors. We do, as you know, have to make adjustments as daylight savings time is kicked in, and then the angle of the sun and all those other aspects that affect an enjoyable time outside. But it seems to be working out very well. I can't remember the exact number that we had for St. Patrick's, our St. Patrick's Day event, but I think it was about 165 or so. And we've gotten great feedback from that event, which was wonderful. We did have our annual charity event, which was held in March instead of January this year. And we did raise over $20,000 for those charities. We've moved the 18-hole breast cancer event up to this Tuesday, which is March 23rd. Again, just like every other event, we are modifying all aspects of that event. But as of Wednesday, we had 131 golfers signed up. And on the 30th, we'll have the 9-hole golf event. Both events will be followed by a luncheon. And then the proceeds from the event will go to Bosom Buddies of Collier County. So it appears that we're going to have great participation, a nice turnout, and be able to support the charities that are important to Foxfire. With regard to just a couple of items, the gate to the Greenway, we have cut a check to Carter Fence. So that now it's up to them to do their permit research. So that will be underway, and we'll give progress reports as we go along with that. And then what I'd like to do is if I can just move right into the next. Yep, sure.
I don't know if this would come under COVID, under social events, or under the House Committee. Is there any plan, because I get a lot of questions from the owners, when they're going to be reinstalling even partial bar stools?
What we had discussed at the
Bar stools at the bar.
right.
Oh.
Yeah. What we had discussed at the with the medical advisory committee was to keep them away through season for sure, all the way through season. And one of the things there is that when members choose to have dinner or sit with their friends and have drinks, that's a choice that they're making to take their face masks off. If we put bar stools up at the bar, then that the employee has no choice but to stay there. And based on the emails I've been circulating with some of the other clubs, it's probably about 50-50 of those who have limited bar stools and those that don't have any bar stools at all. But our plan was to at least go all the way through season without them. I think overall, we've been very fortunate with the number of COVID cases and the fact that we haven't had to, close down. So, just one of those things that we're just taking it kind of week by week, but we did plan on all the way through the season to not happen there.
And that applies to our restrictions
Absolutely.
too. Even though we have 70% inoculated, we're gonna keep all of the mask and.
Oh, yes.
distancing
Oh, yes.
in
Yes, yes,
place
yes,
through the
yes,
season.
yes, yeah. Because as you all know, all it takes is one positive case and the number of people that either have to get tested or could possibly be close contacts. It's unbelievable how quickly that spreads out. So we've just been playing really cautiously so we can continue to move in a positive direction. But I appreciate you asking that question because I know that has been coming up quite a bit, and it's something we should definitely put into one of our messages as well. With regard to our current state of affairs financially, the members who have selected to pay the one-time assessment, and this was as of Tuesday, was 398 members will pay the one-time assessment for the golf course. 240 have selected the payment plan, and 243 hadn't responded. Since then, Layla has been reaching out to members who to find out, if they maybe just forgot to send the message in, whatever it might be. And then in addition to that, our next email is going to have a request to submit that information as well. And overall, since Tuesday, I know with the calls that Layla has made that there's been a number of people who have switched either back or forth. So I think we're hovering right around those same numbers still. As of February 28th or March 1st, our delinquencies, we had approximately $47,000 of delinquencies that were 60 days or longer. Of that $47,000, approximately $30,000 to $31,000 is from 2 units, and those 2 units are with the attorney. Most of the other balances are relatively small, and there's a total of 21 accounts that are 60 days or more behind. So a total of 21 out of 931, which is not so bad. The revenues continue to reflect, the limited capacity that we have. If you take February alone, when we would normally have a Valentine's Day event that would have anywhere from 150 to 200 people, during February, we normally have 2 trivia nights every week. We're doing, 1 trivia night with a capacity of 100 people. So overall, our revenues are holding on pretty well. And like I said, I'll have the comparative data at our next meeting. But we did approximately $116,000 in food and beverage revenue for the month of February. And from the golf side, we had I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I wrote myself a different note here. Where we're still really shining very well is we're hitting budget with our merchandise sales at about $30,000 for the month of February. And overall, card fees, guest fees, and other golf-related fees have done very well. The deficit compared to last year is in our tenant fees. So Based on my initial review of the end of month reports, our tenant fees for February alone compared to last year are down $30,000. So, and that's again, not surprising. I believe as of February 1st, we had approximately 84 active units that were rented. And I can confirm that. Beyond that,
Donald, 84?
there was only 84.
84 of 931, it was like 13% at one point, but that's lower, so now
Yeah,
it's
it's-
9%.
Yeah, it's slow. There's not a lot of tenants playing golf on a golf course. You know, it's majority, and you can see it in those numbers for sure. But guest fees and cart fees and all those are holding on pretty well. And like I said, I'll have the comparative data for our next meeting. By this time of the year, Linda, I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, I should have looked at this, but when we assign member number, tenant numbers every year, by March, we would be what, in the 9,400s or so? 95,
We start at 9,300,
right?
and right now we're just at a little over 94.50. We only have like maybe 150
Total.
Normally at this time. We're hitting the 9,500,
Yeah,
so
so
it'd be about 200.
we started at 9,300 basically at the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
October 1st. So we've only had since October 1st, 150 total tenants. So some of these are, multiple rentals and things like that. So
Mhm.
it is quite a few. And as I said, I think there's only 84, 85 that were active as of February 1. So there's been a large decrease in tenants, which we, thought would happen, but now we're planning the budget last June. So the other couple of items from a financial standpoint, we do have 2 requests that were both budgeted. The one I did have John order. It's the rhododendron that's going to be used for our golf course project and then beyond. You have the quotation in the board book, and the other is for a tractor. And this tractor, I believe, was a tractor that we had delayed from last year, and then we certainly need it this year, especially with the renovation that we're that's going to get underway the first week of April. So what I'm asking for is formal approval for these purchases. As I said, they were budgeted, and these are critical elements to a successful golf course project, especially with a lot of the work being performed in-house. With regard to the rhododendron, one of the things I would mention is that we did consider not purchasing the rhododendron and bringing in a third party and having them do that, perform that function for us. But in the end, the cost of bringing in a third party, as opposed to purchasing it and having it for now and the future, was approximately twice as much. So as opposed to $17,000, it was about $35,000 just for the rental, so, or the third party.
Will we be able to use this otherwise, other than the golf course renovation?
Absolutely. So one of the things we've actually wanted to purchase a rhododendron for a while, because in the summer times, when we do close the golf courses for extended period of times, whether it's on a major construction project or a minor, there are areas of the golf course where you want to come in and be able to rhododendron, because you can set the levels to different aspects. And one of the real important ones for us is on the driving range, that every summer we would rhododendron the driving range tee and be able to basically generate a whole new playing surface every single year. And then anywhere, the entire tee box. Yeah. The part where you stand, right, exactly. The driving range tee. Then also around the drains, any place, with our golf course. For example, when we're using the rhododendron primarily this summer, we're going to use it on all the tee boxes, because we're going to laser level every tee box. If we rhododendron that, we're going to be able to mix up the soil profile, get a good mixture, and then laser level. On some of the weaker fairways on 1 red, 9 silver, 1 silver, there'll be significant portions of those fairways that we actually rhododendron as well. And then going forward, any places that we identify that require that real change of soil profile, we'll do that on an ongoing basis every summer. So it'll be a piece of equipment that's used perpetually. And there's a lot of value to that.
Is there a motion to approve $16,280 for the rhododendron?
So moved. Just for the record, we did make this expenditure, so we're approving an expenditure that was previous.
Budget is good.
That's
It's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. And secondly, a motion to approve, how much? $29,013.65 for the tractor.
So moved.
I second it.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Okay. The next item is with our payroll protection program loan. We are working on bringing that to a close and applying for that. We plan to meet again, have a Zoom meeting sometime next week with the representatives from RSM and the subcommittee of Lynn Anderson, Helen Westling, Roger Saunders, Dr. Cornetta, and PM and myself have pretty much got all of our ducks in a row with that, but there is new guidance with how PPP can be applied and how this employee retention tax credit can be applied. And so we want to make sure we have that completely clarified before we submit our forgiveness application. Pam and Halsey have all the documentation ready to roll. And then Lynn Anderson has also prepared a worksheet for RSM to review regarding the ERTC and the PPP as well. So we feel that we're in a really good position, and our plan is to apply for the forgiveness for the PPP. I think we decided by April 30th. Is that correct?
Yeah, by May 1st, we want to.
So that's where we are with that. Did you want to comment on that at all?
Just so the board knows, we pushed this back following the CARES Act extension that took place December 27th, 2020. In that, the PPP program, firms could take advantage of both the PPP program and the employee retention tax credit. The ERTC comes through the Internal Revenue Service. And RSM gave us the advice at that particular point in time, let's get further clarification on this so you can apply for them both at the same time. We didn't need the $660,000 critically in the first quarter of this year. And we said, we're going to listen to RSM and we have committed to get the PPP lined up for forgiveness and eventually grant by the end of April. And we'll be doing it simultaneously with the ERTC request. The ERTC request could mean an extra couple $100,000.
Wow. It's significant.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about the gate to the gateway?
Yeah. So we have cut that check to Carter Fence, and we've started to move forward. So now the ball's in their court with regard to doing the permit search and things like that. But we are moving forward with that as well.
At the last board meeting, we had a request to send a message to members explaining exactly what this gate entailed. Because you may recall there was a petition signed by 80 some odd members questioning the advisability of putting in the gate. I sent that message out on February 23rd and have heard nary a peep, so I assume the community is convinced that this makes sense.
Well, one of the things, and of course, we're at the county's mercy on what they let us do but
Sure.
I'm confident they're going to let us put the gate in. But one of the things that we're getting more and more concerns about is members walking in the roadway. We're getting because especially now that it's darker a little later in the morning, and some aren't walking the roadway just because the sprinklers might be on. They're walking the roadway, and it is really dangerous. So this is going to be a nice alternate. The other thing that's happening is more and more people are walking and riding the golf course during restricted times, and that becomes a huge issue from a safety standpoint. And it's unsettling for golfers to be out there and having the right of way, and then have people running up and down riding their bicycles. So that's something we hate to have to be this constant restriction, but the golf course during the day is for golf, and in the early evening as well. And that's something we just have to continue to remind the members of, because if someone gets hit in the back of the head with a golf ball, or it's not going to feel good, number one, and it's really not fair to it's not fair to the people that have the right of way out there. So I know it sounds redundant. I know that some do get frustrated when the pro shop is sending out notes saying, please be reminded, dogs are not allowed on the golf course, so on and so forth. But we have to think of this as a community effort, and everybody has to be part of that.
This subject, occasionally, and this has been going on since I lived over in Foxmore, and we were talking about it because it happened a couple of days ago. People come into the Foxmore area, and I assume they've been given directions, take the first right. Well, they end up on the golf course, and there was a truck out there a few days ago. Maybe we should just consider a little extra signage there. This is a cart path. This is not a road.
Let me look, because I thought we put a sign on that last spring because of that, for that reason. Let me
really?
see.
Okay.
Right past that house at the end of Foxfire Lane, we had put a sign there saying no vehicular traffic or something along those lines. Let me make sure it's still there.
Okay, all right. I didn't see it.
Yeah, let me make sure. Yeah, because we definitely put something there last spring, because that was happening. It's weird. Ever since COVID came around, all kinds of.
All right, it happened again. There was a
Yeah,
giveaway
so-
pickup truck out there on.
Part of the other day too.
What?
Ladies driving.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you realize it pretty quickly.
The
You can
typical
tell.
patron.
right.
Donald, is there a time that you can walk the golf course, like after 6 or after 7? Is there a guideline for that?
It's in the morning before 7 a.m. and then after 6 p.m. But then during daylight savings time, it's after 7 p.m.
Got it.
So the other thing I was going to mention while we're on this report is that we are sending the request in for to update the signature cards for the board members. So we will be requesting that Mr. Garrity, Mr. Moore, Mrs. Safranek come in when we have that set up and sign, so that we have you on file. There may be, I don't know that there will be at this point in time. There might be something where we actually have to go off premises to do that, fingerprinting and so on and so forth. But I'll get that cleared up and find out for sure. But that is one of the things that is in process as well, so that you're all signers going forward. Okay.
Great. Under new business, the golf course master plan. Do we have a language?
I'm going to read it. So one of the requirements is that because we're going to be taking a loan on behalf of the members who chose the payment plan, we have to have a formal resolution that we send with our bank loan application to Iberia Bank. And they gave us a sample of what is required. And I'll just read the sample, then we can fill in the blanks. A motion was made by blank and seconded by blank that we vote to approve Iberia Bank, First Horizon Bank as a lender for up to $1.5 million fixed term for our regrassing and irrigation project. Sorry, fixed term loan. The loan will have a 10-year term at a 3% interest rate, and that might change, but just we wanted to put that in there, with equal principal and interest payments due monthly until maturity. A special assessment fee will be collected to secure the necessary funds for repayment. The following board members will have the authority to sign the loan documents on behalf of the Foxfire Community Association of Collier County Incorporated, William J. Cornetta, President, and Roger S. Saunders, Treasurer. The vote was approved, and then we would give the number. So that is the resolution that is required, and we will put that in a form that we can send to Iberia. So if you
Is
want
this,
to take it.
do these checks require 2 signatures like the rest of the checks?
This is a loan application.
This is for the loan application.
Oh, I'm sorry, that sounded like it was the monthly repayment.
No,
checks.
no,
No,
it's,
okay.
the 1.5 million is to cover the balance between what members are going to pay up front and the cost of the golf course project. And it may be a little less than 1.5 million. It looks as though the interest rate will be 3%, but until we actually sign the document, that could change.
Billy, the properly identified regrassing and irrigation project. My only thought there is we're also doing some other work. It might be something that gets confusing. It might not be. I just throw it out there.
Well, the finance committee has laid out the financing of this pretty clearly in terms of 2 loans. The first loan is to cover the golf course project, and that's the one we're talking about.
No, I understand, but understood we paid $2,450 if we paid it one time. That money also went towards other portions of the initial phase 1. And they were not just golf course. That's my only point. I know.
All
It
that
doesn't matter.
2470 is golf course.
It's not also the tennis courts and the bocce?
No,
But we have cash in capital improvement funds that
And
we
that's where
can
that's
take
Right,
care of.
that's
it.
coming.
There's your ring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just so you know, on the application itself, one of the things that the purpose of loan golf course renovation, new irrigation system, and regrassing of 27 holes, improvements and repairs, because there are improvements and repairs on the golf course that'll take place as well.
Got it. Thanks.
okay.
So do we need a motion to approve the entering into that loan agreement?
Yes.
Okay, I so move that we enter into the loan agreement and authorize Dr. Cornetta and Roger Saunders to sign on our behalf.
Is there a second
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, unanimous. The Board of Directors certification webinar, Donald?
Yes, so each year, the new directors either have to sign a form that they've read our bylaws and covenants, and or attend a board certification webinar. It's not normally a webinar, but this year it is. And Steve Falk actually hosts that webinar, and it's next Thursday, March 25th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I've signed up so that for any board members who would like to attend or are required to attend can do so. So I did sign up, and we can certainly, if you'd rather take this certification webinar at home, I can have them send the link to you as well. So however you'd like to do that, I just like to know if in fact you plan on attending. And number one, so I can give them a roster of who would attend, or if you're going to do that either from here or from your own residence.
Yes, we did in fact, Ray and Christine.
Right.
I don't have a problem sitting here. It's easier.
It'll be here?
Well, it's a Zoom,
Do
so.
this one.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
so
here,
it's Zoom, yeah,
that's
but
fine.
I signed up so it'd be one location, that
Sure.
way it
It's
wouldn't.
easier. We're sitting across from each other because we have a question.
I did a similar certification a little over 2 years ago, but I certainly do this one again when I went on the Fox Hollow board.
Yes, yes.
So but I'll certainly be here then.
And this precludes what statute 720 says, that you can
Yeah.
actually certify that you've done it yourself.
Right,
We're just gonna
exactly.
do it officially.
Yeah, because you can do it
Okay.
that way, or you can just, or we can have you sign a form that says that you've read the documents and just has to be signed off on by Mr. Moore. So
Okay,
I find that even though we take recurring courses every year, I find that there's a lot of things that come up and questions that,
Absolutely.
impact. So I find it kind of interesting normally.
okay, thank you. Under old business, a few months ago, I asked Jim Moore and Chris Jackstead to look into the issue of electronic voting. And at our last meeting, Mark brought up another company, HOA Now,
HOAST.
My host.
My Host, I'm sorry, yes. So Jim, do you want to bring us up to date?
Yeah, we had
on your
recommended at the
recommendations?
last meeting an option called Becker Ballot. And for some reason, the initial Google search didn't pop up My Host for us. So at Mark's suggestion, we went back and looked at them and find that they are a Florida-based company, which was one of our strong preferences. They have a lot of communities in Florida that they service, including at least 30 in the Naples area, and I think about 270 in all of Florida itself. They are reasonably priced. They seem to do what everyone else does. Mark Schwab said he had a great experience with them and recommended them. One of the communities, coincidentally, that they service is Verona Walk, and my brother lives there, so I called him. And he said there was some problem getting it set up initially. He didn't think it was the program's fault. He thought it was their community's fault. But he said once it got going, it's, as he described it, it's slick. So I went back after I learned a little bit more about HOAST and tried to compare it, at least the videos that I watched from HOAST, and went back to try and compare them to the videos I had earlier reviewed from Becker Ballot. Becker Ballot had changed their website. I couldn't get into the videos anymore. I don't know why. So that didn't leave me with a good impression of them. And so Chris talked to Dan McCready, I think is his name, the head of HOAST, and got some further explanation of some things that Chris was wondering about. And between the two of us, we're ready to recommend we go with HOAST. They're not expensive. They're just a little over $1,000 for the year, as many votes as you want to take or surveys. As with all of these programs, there's a learning curve to them, and whoever we designate here, whether it's Donald or someone else in the main office, they're going to have to spend some time coming up to speed on what information we have to give them and how we put it out to members. And it may be a little bit of a rocky start, but I think HOAST is certainly as good as anyone we've seen, and happy to recommend that we go with them.
Jim?
Yeah.
What happens is when you take your spreadsheet with all your names and addresses, donors and whatnot, you send that to them, they load it into the system.
Right.
Then it automatically, the supervisor from Foxfire can send out from that site emails to everyone with their temporary password and username. And they take care of all that. And people that sign up, they go on a list, you can check it on. Make sure that you have it, that you can electronically opt in. There's a resolution we will have to pass eventually.
Right.
But make sure it specifically says electronically opting in, because if you don't, then you have to sign a paper and send it to the office, and that is like watching grass grow.
Yeah, they will walk us through the resolution process. They mentioned they have a standard form. that they
Yeah,
want
but
us
make
to
sure
sign.
it
So,
specifically says. what
yeah, when it comes to that, we'll ask you to look over it for us. But yeah, it's, like I said, there is a learning curve to this, and we've got to get some documents in place, but I think it's going to be the same with anyone. What we like about this one, as we did with the other one, is it is Florida-based and very attuned to what the requirements of Florida law are. So we got a fairly high degree of confidence in them.
And Dan is very easy to get in touch with.
Chris talked to him directly.
Thank you, and Chris and Mark for bringing this to a head. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation to retain HOAST for our online voting?
I'll make the motion to go with my host.
Second.
And is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, I guess the next step is to set up some sort of implementation
Yeah,
committee.
and when the time comes, I'll be happy to sit in on that for whatever I can offer, but I'd be interested in knowing how it works. Like Mark says, they'll tell us what form that we need to upload the information to them on, and then just take it step by step from there.
We have the board would have to make the resolution that we will allow the owners to go and opt in electronically as opposed to sending a form.
Okay,
So that's very.
There are some
specific.
other things in that resolution. There are certain time deadlines that you have to put in your resolution.
Right, but it's a
Right.
printed form.
okay. Again, thank you
Sure.
for bringing this to completion. The smoking policy review, as a result of the renovations we're going to be making in the grill room with doors and windows being able to open, it's going to impact our smoking area on the north side of the grill room. So Christine, you got anything to report on?
The smoking review committee has met and discussed Foxfire's present smoking policy. Besides Roger and I, there are 6 other members, which consist of former smokers, non-smokers, cigar smokers, and the spouses of a cigar smoker. We are presently reviewing Florida statutes which govern smoking, and also Foxfire's governing documents relative to this issue. In addition, we have reached out to similar golf country club communities in our proximity to gain a better understanding of their policies and how they handle smoking in their club, common, and golf course areas. We're presently formulating questions for a potential survey of our members regarding the matter, and we will complete our research and evaluation in the next 4 weeks and present a report of our findings to the board at the April board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we're going on to the standing committees. We'll start with the medical advisory. In addition to what Donald has said about COVID-19, there is a group of members in Foxfire who get up early in the morning and are making the 7 a.m. phone calls to Publix and others on behalf of members who might have difficulty doing that themselves. So in our message to members that will go out early next week, we'll give you information about this group, and they'll be happy to make the phone calls for you and try and get you registered to help as many people as possible get the vaccination. The construction committee has been meeting weekly, and we've made substantial progress in the design of the various amenity projects. Did we complete the signing of the contract with US Tennis at this point for the bocce and tennis courts?
We're waiting for the resolution from the addendum from Steve, and then,
Okay.
yeah, but we've
So
agreed
we're-
to all the terms. We're just waiting for the addendum from Steve.
the terms of that were agreed to, and so hopefully we'll get that signed and be ready to go when the permits become available. The site development plan amendment was filed last Monday.
Yes, that was filed, and as soon as, anytime you file with Collier County, the first thing you get is a payment slip, because they won't look at it without a payment slip. So we made sure they got their payment right away. But the site plan amendment is under review as we speak. The construction phasing permit is under review as we speak. The environmental resource permit with South Florida Water Management District is under review as we speak. So we've got everything that we can submit at this point in time has been submitted and is under review.
When do we expect, I think you or someone told me they have 30 business days.
They have 30 business
which is like
days.
6 weeks.
Right.
Do we expect them to take the full time?
I would, based on the experience we've had with the reviews, I would say yes. South Florida Water Management is generally a lot quicker than that. However, they're doing so much remotely that it's hard to say. We will monitor it on a daily basis, but the initial feedback from the county was that the site plan, based on their review, would take less than 30 days, but I would not put that in stone anywhere, only because, you know, it can change, but one reviewer can make the whole process change. You have 17 different reviewers and one.
So then they, let's say, if this was filed on Monday, that was the 15th, let's say they take the full time, it comes to the end of April.
Yeah.
When we hear back from them, will there be changes we'll have to make to the site plan?
Yes,
Probably.
yes.
And we resubmit it, we start another 30 business day clock running.
Right, right.
But we got any, and the only reason I ask is a lot of people come up to me, when is this all gonna get started?
Right.
When do we expect that we'll finally end all of these extensions and be ready to go? We have when we finally get final approval for the site plan.
Well, I guess the thing is from a site plan review standpoint, I guess what probably should say is we've got to separate the site plan review stamp from the actual construction, because the site plan review really should all be wrapped up by the middle of July at the latest. That's when the site plan review should be. However, with the site plan review, then we have to wait for responses to understand. We don't want to start doing construction documents if they change the height of a building or this or that. So then we have to have all the construction documents made for those facilities. All those construction documents will have to go out to bid. So even though the site plan may be in hand or approved by the middle of July, it's likely that most of the vetting of the general contractor, all the construction documents will be toward, the fall. So
Okay.
that's probably reasonable to assume at this point in time.
Okay, so on an optimistic basis, the earliest we'd likely start construction on this would be the fall sometime.
As far as vertical, other than the bocce, the tennis, and the golf course, because
Bocce and the tennis can begin before then?
well, once we have the site, once the site, we can submit things concurrently.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things will be is that as long as there's not changes to the bocce, to what they, to the bocce or that area, that we're going to submit that under a separate permit anyway, under a separate, but the site, everything is contingent on the site plan. But bocce and tennis, once we have the site plan approved, they can go ahead and start with their actual renovation. So again, it hinges on the site plan, but all of their cut sheets and all of their specs, they already have all that because it's more boilerplate. Whereas everything for the fitness center, the cart barn, the halfway house, all those construction documents have to be developed, and we can't really start that development until we know that we can build what we want to build, where we want to build it
So it's conceivable we could start work on the bocce and the tennis yet this summer.
this summer, exactly. And yeah, exactly.
The tennis, some of the tennis people are the ones that are bugging me the most about this.
Yeah, and the one thing on the golf course that's contingent on site plan is the bulkhead wall, because that is a site plan amendment. So, but again, with regard to all of the contractors that we have lined up, they all understand the impact of that. We might have to work around 9 red and 9 blue green earlier on, and then come back to that later than we wanted to. And that of course impacts tennis and bocce.
Right.
So it's going to be something that's a little bit, fluid at first.
Okay, thank you.
No, just because I get the same questions Jim gets. Of course, I've got golf and tennis committees that ask me this too. It's my understanding it's about 4 to 5 months for US Tennis for their proposal to get all of their projects done.
Right.
And I'm glad to hear that July 15th would be a nice date.
I think it's reasonable to
Okay,
say
So
that.
let's say it's reasonable. So if we had just 5 months to that to make it worse, that would put us somewhere around the beginning of November to have everything done.
Yeah, 40, yeah, you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the key. I mean, people are gonna come back and all come back November 1st. It's nice to have it all done. But the construction on that could start July 15th, even though there may be some issues finalizing the red 9 and blue 9 green. That's not gonna hold up the beginning of that construction. Is that the correct statement?
Yeah, well, it really depends on how that, how the bridge, the bridge, how the bulkhead wall. That's really what hangs it up. But what we're talking about with the golf course people is that once we start moving the dirt on the blue golf course and then 9 red, 9 blue, is that we can rough shape everything
Right.
and then come back to that. And our plan was to bring material from 1 blue over to the botch area. So there's
12 inches we've got to come
and
up.
there's some work that US Tennis will be able to do. The key is we don't want to start any type of demo until we know that we can definitely build what we want to build. And then that's so more than likely what will end up happening is we're gonna get the bulkhead wall in, and then they would be able to start their construction on the bocce and the tennis courts. But in the meantime, they would be able to start their demo and some of that their own site work for the bocce and tennis.
They being US
US
Tennis
Tennis, yeah.
for the site.
So I see US Tennis probably starting to shape their area probably somewhere in the first part of August is what I would guess. So I think that if assuming we don't hit any major roadblock that we're not aware of right now, I would think that it'd be reasonable to think that with bocce and tennis, that it would be reasonable that we would be able to have that built before the first of the year.
Yeah, I would say if worse came to worse and we had a hang up, just like we're experiencing with the golf course, where some people don't get full usage and we lose 60 days.
Right.
You might lose 30 days of hard true courts that might have to roll over to the asphalt
Right.
temporarily.
Right. Absolutely.
But we have a good timeline.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I did get the question, and I just want to clarify it for the record and for everybody who's watching. The question was, will there be construction going on during season?
I would say that I think that not doing construction during this season would be a mistake, because you're number one, you have the dry weather, you're not running it. So even though it's a disturbance, I think that if there's some vertical construction that can start in the fall, I think that it would be prudent to move forward and do that. That's ultimately, once we get all the formal bids back and how the contractors would lay it out, that's a decision that obviously the board will have to make. But working during the season is, although there's a disruption, the fact that you're working during the dry season will make a big difference in how the project flows. There's no
We're going to
question.
have to make accommodations. I mean, if the grill room is being done, we're going to have to go somewhere else. If the outdoor seating's being done, we're gonna have to sit somewhere else. We've already arranged for the carts,
And
to go to gas powered carts.
from April of 2004, or right around April 2004 through September of 2005, we didn't have a clubhouse.
Right.
And we made accommodations. People, we did a lot of things outdoors. Everybody really kind of enjoyed it and liked being part of the process, I think. So, so again, I think that if we were saying, oh no, we only want to do it from May through October, you're gonna have issues with contractors too, because a lot of subs and all, they don't have the work during the season down here. This year they do, because everybody does so much new construction. But a lot of the subs, their workload goes through the roof in the summertime, because most people don't want to be disrupted by construction. So I think that if we were able to start some vertical construction in the season, I think it would be the way to go.
So expectations are laid.
The total cost of the bocce and tennis courts complete by US Tennis is $373,000, of which $305,000 comes from the master plan budget, and $54,000 comes from the capital repair and replacement fund. And what's covered by the repair and replacement funds are the tennis court lighting and foundations and wiring and all of that. And then Ray Garrity has generously contributed on behalf of his mom enough money to fund the bocce court lighting. So that's the cost complete for the tennis, the bocce, and the patio between the two. And Bob Willey and Frank Neves worked very hard pounding US Tennis and keeping these costs down. So I think they did a great job. Okay, Strategic Planning Committee.
All right, the committee met on 12th of March. We were mostly talking about the master plan, since that was the biggest subject on the table. There was some discussion of the pool and completing that. There's been a delay with the windows in the bathhouse, but it's coming through, and discussion of how to decorate it. We talked about the tennis, which we have already covered, and the rest of the master plan. My legacy fund, he's going to cover that.
Taffy, the bar was going to be moved, now it's going back to where it was originally proposed in the renderings?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Yes. The rest of it was covered by other committees.
Okay. Green Committee.
Green Committee. Oh yeah, this is a big one. You've all seen what's been going on out there. We've done 2 applications on the new 9 of the herbicide, and it's been quite effective. And the last application is going to be around the 1st of April. And shortly after that, we're going to do the first application on the blue course. The new 9 is going to close about the 5th of April to start digging it up. We had a meeting with the USGA here, and they will be submitting a report in a couple of weeks, but there is ongoing discussion about removing some cart paths or replacing them with something that the ball doesn't bounce on quite as and damage the ball quite as much. And still ongoing discussion about turf reduction. Otherwise, we're right on schedule with the golf course. I mean, we are really right to the day, pretty much where we want to be.
And, I'm correct, April 5th is when we hope construction will begin on the irrigation and
Yes, right. So as of right now, what our plan is there's required training that has to take place with the suppliers. And we're going to use all 27 holes on that weekend, which is on the 3rd and the 4th. On April 5th, our plan is to go ahead and start doing the work on the tee boxes that, so I'd removal on the tee boxes. Those first 3 days, the staff and the vendors will be doing the equipment training and the safety training, but we will get underway with our work. So that's our plan as of right now.
Okay. Finance?
Finance committee's focused primarily on looking forward. They're working diligently with the master plan. There's somebody attached to every single of the subcommittees in the construction area in that arena. They're focused secondly on starting the 21-22 fiscal budget year. They've already begun to interview various operations heads. Third, they're focused on helping finalize the PPP and the employee retention tax credit program, which we've already talked about. And finally, they've extended their advisory capacity to any other committee that feels that they need some financial input. They're willing to sit alongside any committee that requests some help. They're doing a great job. On the House and Social, they're rounding out their season naturally. So they're looking forward as well. They're planning for 2021 and 2022. And we're going to have bands or dances, which we're planning on a normal year next year. You've got to hire those bands now and make certain that you have them. They're planning for full operations as we go into season in 2022. And they are also very active in the master plan because so much of it happens right around the clubhouse here. So those are the things they're focused on.
I got to tell you, I was at the St. Patrick's Day dinner the other night, and it was just so nice to see everybody sitting down together again.
Isn't that
It's
great?
been a long time
Isn't that great?
since I've seen that. And I can't wait to we can all start doing that again. It was a very nice event. Very well done.
Okay, thank you. ARC?
The ARC is undergoing, we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We're finally, one of my big projects with them is to get their record keeping organized and the standards published and our whole way of doing business explained in a way where people can understand how the system works, why we do it, what the standards are, what the procedure is, what the consequences are. I think would be safe to say it's been haphazard up to this point, at least since I've looked at it. So I'm working with Keith Bailey and Mike Gavigan to try and pull this all together. And Kathy O'Brien is terrific in helping us put all this information on the Foxfire website in a way that's going to be, I hope, understandable and more explanatory to members. So that's one of our big projects, and that's ongoing. We're typing up all new descriptions of different policies and trying to bring organization to it. When we do that, we're going to have to get board approval on everything we've done, but there's no point in giving it to you piecemeal. We'll give it to you all at once, and you can have at it at that point. We also have a couple of ongoing issues that we're dealing with. One is the mailbox issue, and we had a meeting yesterday. Unfortunately, because we have out-of-town guests, I had to duck out of the meeting as we were just discussing the mailbox. But I believe that we have settled on a color, and we're going to take a look at securing the paint with that color, making it available to whoever needs it so that we don't have people having to worry about where they're going to get paint and whether they get the right color. I think it's gonna be final, the decision on that's gonna be made final at the next meeting, but I think that's where it headed when I had to duck out. And then the last major issue that the ARC is dealing with, and I want to keep the board up to date, is the matter of Fox Haven 1. That condominium association has had a blue tarp on its roof for 3.5 years since Hurricane Irma hit. And our declaration of covenants requires a neighborhood association like that to commence repairs within 90 days and to complete them within 9 months. Of course, they're well beyond that date. So we wrote a letter to the association asking them to please come in and explain what's going on, because we were only dealing with rumors. And we asked them to bring with them in advance of the meeting, actually a week in advance of the meeting, to give us a series of documents to show us what's going on, the insurance policy, the estimates they've received, and things such as that. Well, the day came for them giving us what they had. We offered a copy of it just so we knew, and nothing showed up. Instead, we got a call from their lawyer up in Tampa, who said he wasn't going to supply a lot of that. And I finally talked him into supplying some of it. Make a long story short, that never arrived either. So we ended up meeting with a representative yesterday from Foxfire 1 who pleaded for more time from the ARC, and even though we've already given them 3.5 years. I don't know, I explained to the ARC exactly what it is we need to look at from the insurance company. And we're gonna write another letter to the lawyer with the hopes that he will produce those things that we need. We're trying to assemble all this information so that we can bring an informed decision to the board on what to do about that, to try and bring resolution to the blue tarp situation. And it's a little complicated. It is in suit at this moment, and it is, because it's in suit, there is not likely to be a resolution via trial for at least 2 or 3 more years. They have a case management program which takes them well into next year, and the trial won't occur until well after that. So we don't want, the ARC, I know, does not want that blue tarp situation to continue. And we're trying to figure out, I think the insurance company for Branda's one, excuse me, Fox Haven 1, has said that the cost, the damage that was done by the hurricane is well within their deductible, and they're not offering anything. And Branda's, or Fox Haven 1, wants a lot more money than that. So the parties are way apart. And in the meantime, the blue tarp continues to sit up there. It's a bit of a knotty situation. I want to just make you aware that it's sitting out there, and the ARC is still trying to get its hands around what's going on and trying to devise an intelligent solution to recommend to the board. We have certain rights that we can exercise if we want, which includes the Master Association going in and fixing the roof and charging this Fox Haven 1 for it. We're not sure if that's the way to go, but we do have those rights if they're not going to somehow fix that. So anyway, that's currently what's going on in the ARC. We got our hands full. We got a lot going on.
What about that home tear down policy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Dr. Cornetta asked me to form a committee to investigate what other bundle communities or other communities like ours in the area are doing. We apparently had a request from a potential buyer here at Foxfire. They were interested in purchasing a single family home, but only if they could take it down and rebuild it. And Dr. Cornetta asked me to find out what other communities were doing. And I immediately passed the buck to Donald, who surveyed his friends at other communities. And apparently there are no policies. That's what I gather the bottom line is no policies. So I will not be able to tell Bill what other communities are doing. And I suspect that the next assignment will be that, well, let's figure out whether we want to do this and what a policy ought to be. And I have a good committee. John Miranda is on it, Leslie Vincent is on it, and Chris Jackstead is on it. And so we got a builder, we got somebody who cares about the vision of Foxfire, and we got another lawyer. And I think we can come up maybe with a recommendation for policy if that's what you want us to do. But right now,
Yeah, I just think, with the passage of time, our community is approaching 40 years of age, and at some point, somebody's going to want to do this, and rather than starting at ground zero, if we have something in place. I know there are communities around that have had tear downs. I think Quail Creek has had a couple of them. So, they must have something.
What we did was I sent an email to about 20 general managers of similar communities, of bundled communities. Of everybody that was pulled, not one of those communities that was bundled had a policy or even had an inquiry about this. The only one that I'm aware of for sure that has permitted is actually Fiddlesticks in Fort Myers. And Fiddlesticks, although people may not realize it, Fiddlesticks is actually a bundled community. And so I don't know that general manager well, but he and I have arranged for a phone call this morning at 11:30. So he wanted to talk to me about it as opposed to just sending me, I don't know what they have documented, but I think that with regard to the policy, I think that it goes back to, as I said to all the other general managers, it looks like whatever we do is going to be a blueprint for everybody.
Well, yeah, I think we will.
A starting point
from ground zero. We'll
right.
just have to build our own policy. It won't be that difficult. We
Right.
already have some restrictions in place, given what the ARC has the authority to do. And so John Miranda will be a big help because he's dealt with this a lot in the construction business and give us some thoughts on how we want to protect ourselves and how we want to, the requirements we want to insist on if we're going to do it.
Right.
Did you say Quail Creek has done this?
Yeah.
Do you know of a manager over there?
I don't know. I just know that they've had a couple of tear downs there. They're
Was Quail Creek one of the ones you contacted?
No, they're not.
They're not a bundle.
They're not a bundle. They're not. They're general managers. They've had like 3 different general managers in the last 3 years. So I can find out who the general manager is now and
Maybe if you
see if
wouldn't
we-
mind, take
yeah,
a look.
yeah.
See what-
Bundled communities would have their own set of issues, but the people that live here are no different than people who had $50,000 homes built 50 years ago, 55 years ago in downtown Naples. Those are all going for dirt, and going for dirt down there, it might be $2 million for the lot. People, it's only natural that
Sure.
there's gonna be somebody coming in here saying, I want to tear it down.
Yeah,
I like the lot and I want to buy it.
Yeah, and it's all going to start with the PUD restrictions, what the setbacks are, what the height restrictions are. I mean, that's where it's all going to start anyways.
Right,
So
right.
And there are gonna be some that are gonna be, it'll be required. I mean, at some point, as these houses start to age, they're not going to be able to be renovated. I think the big thing is gonna be height. Do we go to say 2 stories?
and the PUD that's the PUD actually, that's all already in the PUD. That's what I'm saying. That's already, those restrictions or those heights are already part of the current PUD document.
You'll have to get a copy of that from you.
Mhm.
Well, we have plenty of time to evolve this. But
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have at least the rudiments of something in place.
One other question for the ARC before we move. There is some concern about consistency in signage within the community and having the sub-association signs the same font and the street signs consistent throughout the community. Is this something that you can look into?
Oh, I'm sure we could. Would you do me a favor? Would you just put that in an email to me?
Certainly.
What your concerns are so that I can put it on the agenda. We've got a lot going on right now.
Okay.
But so it may take us a couple of months before we get to that.
All right, because one association is holding off on signs at the moment, pending some sort of guidance.
I don't know that, I'm not sure that there's anything in the bylaws or the covenants that deals with signage as a
I don't recall
responsibility
seeing
for
it
the art, but I
either.
can look at that.
Okay.
Okay, on to the Legacy Fund. We've had our second meeting. It's a good group of people. We're still in the process of trying to organize things and develop plans or charters or explanations to the public of what it is we're doing, but we're making progress on that. We're developing a website presence. And there's about 15,000 already in the legacy fund, and as mentioned earlier, thanks to Ray Garrity, there's a donation out there for through the legacy fund for the lighting on the bocce courts. It is our hope to start developing other similar projects that we might try and encourage members individually or in groups to contribute to as part of the master plan, such as lighting for the tennis courts or funding the cost of some of the courts. I know they're already built in, but we're thinking that people might be interested in sponsoring the cost of a bocce court or a tennis court. We put a little plaque down there commemorating or celebrating whoever it was that donated that or wherever it was that they want to celebrate. And so we're just getting started, and that's where we are now. But it's a very good group and very energetic. The rules committee, there's nothing to report. The rules committee is not done.
Golf committee met on the 11th of March, a virtual Zoom meeting. It was my first meeting sitting on that side of the table. As you know, I did that for a few years as chair. Couple key things that came up. It's kind of interesting because it was about people not being able to play. I think there was one Monday when there was 70 some shutouts, the way I understood it. People unable to play. We were talking about the fact at that meeting that there was 13% tenant rental. It's actually 9%, so it's actually lower. And the tenants were the reason. Apparently, everybody thought that we didn't have tee times. 9% doesn't make for a large number. But what came out of it was a good idea, and that is that the golf committee has 5 people in a subcommittee. They're not all even golf committee members because they wanted to get a diversity. And they're going to study a lot of things that are going on. And what it's going to come down to is, if you go back to strategic planning, when we did the summary of the 8 little communities, there was comparisons in both a narrative and in an Excel spreadsheet. That's what's going to happen. The board will be able to see what perhaps 15 different communities are doing, not only in Chelsea, but in even in the transfer fees and anything else that applies to a tenant, so we can make an informed decision going forward. So that's in process.
And
Sure.
The premise or the concern is, I think it's the premise, is that we are not getting our preferred tee times because of tenant play. Is that?
That's, well, it's not even preferred tee time, Taffy, it's just play time.
All right, but
Okay, yeah.
they're saying it's because they're thinking, their belief is that it's
Well, yeah, and
tenants
that's,
who are.
and of course, it's
giving
busy
them-
season, and there's a lot of other reasons for that too. Let's face it, we've got a new membership coming in, younger, active, wanting to play, and then we have people with COVID that are probably here for a longer period that wouldn't have been here. So all of those things come into play. But it's good to have a study and to have a base, which we don't have right now. So that was the first part of it. The second part, and this it adds on to it, is that there are tee times available every day, but they're onesies and twosies. And another thing that's going to be looked at is how our Chelsea capabilities can be improved. I happened to see it last night from another community. Bob Dixon's part of this, and he showed me from his community in North Carolina. He went online, he said, look, here's everybody's tee time for tomorrow. And there were spaces, and you can look and see, and it would say, for example, Ray and Jim and Roger are playing, and this way, 4 guys want to play, and you know, you look at it, right? When Mark looks at it, he says, oh, let me fill in with those guys. The pro shop would not have to be handling phone calls. It could be done online. It would be an automatic system that would update completely to a list. So that's what they want to look at. Again, this is a study. We'll see what happens, but I think it's a good decision that's been made.
Is that Chelsea? Do they have Chelsea up there?
Yeah. It looks exactly as our sheets do. And it's pretty obvious. You see the blank and you can fill it in. And this is my point, because there's probably, I think I heard Donald, he has 30 to 40 openings, individual daily openings that we see. I mean, I see people go by my house on the third green and there's 3 people in the group. So if you're missing, okay, you can't play with your group today, but if you
Right.
want to play golf, at least you can play and get in. And for us, it's better because it may be even a rental situation for a cart, so it increases revenue. So those are the type of things that they want to look at.
And one more thing that you might want to look into, and this, it goes to Fiddlesticks, as a matter of fact. They have the Chelsea system, and somehow, and I don't know exactly how they do it, they automatically get booked their regular weekly tee time. So if you have a regular Tuesday group, it will automatically put you in if you register as that. Are you familiar with that, or do you know how that works, or can our system be tweaked in that way?
I'm not familiar with Fiddlesticks policies now.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
we'll talk to
yeah,
them.
yeah. I'm
together.
sure repeat reservations. I want to clarify though, what they're doing there is more than likely, is it a guaranteed time? Is it a guaranteed tee time, or is it a guaranteed repeat booking? Because a repeat booking, it should be nothing from that standpoint. It's the guaranteed tee time that they might offer that there's no way we would be able to do.
It's probably
Because-
Donald, you're right.
It sounds like a guaranteed tee
See,
time.
because they have
I'm
36
told that they-
holes and
yeah.
500 members, not 27 holes and
Yeah.
1,000 members. So
They got 36.
they have 36 holes.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have 36 holes and 500 or 600 members, not, so again, I know they had, their former director of golf was actually my predecessor here, so I
That's
know
right,
him
that's
very
right.
well, and how they do their bookings, I can certainly find out. He is not there any longer,
Right, but
but
it's a thought, and it's very convenient.
yeah, but a repeat request would be nothing for a programmer.
Right. 2 other quick updates. One, golf pits, we approved the money to be spent. They're already actively looking at this. Donna O'Brien and her subcommittee are going through, looking at the best ways for us to operate, not only as an association that owns a golf course, but also as a USGA facility. That's the best way to phrase it. So we've always concentrated ourselves as what we are as a overall community, but we are USGA. There are requirements, and if you read their handbook, it simply says you can't say you're USGA if you don't follow all of our rules. One of those rules are proper handicapping, so they'll address that. And finally, I think we need to get this out, and it's been questioned. As soon as convenient, we should be announcing to our members what the reciprocal policy will be, not only and really effective May 1st. Some people say to me April 1st, we're only gonna have 18 holes. Why can't we go to some clubs and get a reciprocal program now? And I say, because we have 18 holes April 1st. So to go to another club and say, gee, we're being, it's worse for us because we had 27, they're gonna say, but you got 18 and we have 18. So May 1st is probably the appropriate date. But to get it out to the members, to have them understand how many clubs have approved a reciprocal program just for us, because we don't have a golf course during that shutdown period, I think is important. I believe it's 2, but let's wait till we have an exact
Right.
piece of information. Fair enough?
Yep, absolutely.
I think safety's next. I can't report that the next meeting is in April, so
Yep.
I'll enjoy meeting those people who have done such a good job. And I believe tennis is next, so I can cover that if you'd like.
Sure.
Once I find my notes for tennis. Oh, here it is. Simple statement is that tennis, anything that they're looking to change, modify, they've simply said, look, we're gonna have new courts. We'll talk about it. We have a nice time to discuss. Donald sat there the other day. There was a discussion about the water dispenser and how it could be changed. So rather than traditionally have the little spout coming out, it could actually come out of something you fill in a cup for health and safety reasons. And the last thing is they're going to have their end of the year banquet, or we're going to have our end of the year banquet because I'm a member. And it starts tomorrow and it goes through Sunday, banquet Sunday, and then other tournaments. So that's the end of the season for the tennis people. In the summer, when it does shut down, I would not be concerned. There's only about 4 of us that play tennis, and we have made our own arrangements with our friends at Countryside, so we'll be covered.
You guys are the nicest. committee. Tennis is always so
You think,
agreeable and so
you don't
sweet
live with
and
them every day.
nice.
Every time I play tennis with them, they come up with something else they like to tell me about. So would you like me to do the president's council? Just to
Yeah,
get
go
my
ahead.
three out of the way.
Sure.
Okay, because we had a meeting, and that was the first official meeting of the tennis committee. I'm gonna do it this way if you don't mind, because you can hear me better. It was the first official meeting in the last 2 years. I believe Ken Bills was the last one that had one. There were a couple interim ones when I was SBC chair that I asked him to come to, but we had a good attendance, about 70% of the people. It was outside at my home, because I thought it would be better that everybody could see each other. We would be in the open air. And I appreciate the fact that we did have 2 people come to present. Taffy was one, and she went through the information on the master plan, which is good because we want to spread that out. Thank you. And the second one came from Chad Callahan. And he wanted to put some information out regarding the focus group and questions which he gave out. And it expanded, and it went to some very good areas, because what we found is that the website offers a tremendous opportunity to the presidents of these community associations. And in fact, one thing we discussed was we could put on the website the rules and regulations that each community, subcommunity, or community association has. Not only because it would be better if there was a dispute, but just in case anybody in the community wanted to know things. There is no other way for them to get that information without sending a lot of emails and paper that people have a tendency to lose. So that'll be built up, and I think it'll be a good interaction with the communications group. And again, this is first time out, sat for 1 hour. Some of those people didn't even know each other. In fact, we ended the meeting, Bob Kraft says, "Who are the rest of these people? I don't know them." So we're taking baby steps. There is one point that was brought up, and I thought I would bring it up because it's important for them that group, not a committee, a council, whatever they are, but that group, to be heard. And they had a concern, Donald had a suggestion. You see, the Master Association gets the transfers from the new tenants, but it comes into here. It doesn't go to the community associations. So it's entirely possible that there could be somebody in that building that is a tenant that the community association knows nothing about. That creates 2 issues. One, maybe they never signed a contract. Maybe there is no transfer agreement, and they're a 1-week rental or a 1-month rental without approval. There's the coordination between the 2 groups, master and community, needs to be reinforced.
Right.
And what they're suggesting is there a way on a monthly basis, in season primarily, that a list could be sent out to all of the communities to say, here's your new visitors. And therefore they would know who they are, what unit they are in, perhaps what term they're going to be there. And if the double check comes up and says, wait a minute, John Smith's in 208, because I saw him and he's not on the list. How'd you get here, John? Well, the owner said to me, and we made a deal. We need to know that.
Yeah,
for safety reasons.
A couple years ago, we set it up so that all the presidents, all they had to do was send an email to Layla. Well, it would be Layla now, but before, all they had to do was send an email to Layla, and she would provide them any rentals that we had in their association. So we've given the presidents of each association that opportunity, and some did have taken advantage of it and some haven't.
I think they all want to. So rather than just go through the request, can we just make it a standard that whatever report we have can just be distributed to these? And I can give you the listing of their email address.
Oh yeah, no, we have all that. So I mean, that shouldn't be an issue.
I think it'd be a good communication, and I think it would help. I know isn't there an effort right now to study the Airbnb rentals that shouldn't be here?
Actually, yeah, Mr. Jackson has done a great job
Well,
with
we can
that.
certainly,
So,
they're certainly willing to help in that if they can get that information.
yeah, but they, like I said, we set that up a couple of years ago, so that as long as they, whichever association wanted that roster, and as I said, I know Chad was really good about requesting it for Fox Hollow when he was the president.
Yeah.
So, but we can certainly automate that in some way, shape, or form.
That could be done, it would be
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Just two final points. One, this meeting, when it was held at 3:00 and on Friday afternoon after the board meeting. And they didn't, they wanted to attend, so they didn't stop coming. So we made an agreement that we would have 4 meetings a year, with scheduled meetings, September, November, January, and March. And that they would be on a different day and a different time. But the point is that they would now be regularly scheduled meetings. And certainly I could, and I will, feed them information as a group. So that if there's a need for a special meeting, you just get together. Yeah.
Great.
One final thought, and it's totally unrelated to these three things, but I just want to suggest, I know last month in my board book, and I'm a newbie here, there were copies of the minutes of the meetings. There's nothing this month, might just be because we got backed up and whatever. But I truly believe that if,
No, he's
copy
talking about any
of the committee meetings.
Oh, I'm, beg your pardon.
It's the committee meetings, and it might not have to be all of them. I think there's 12 majors as they're defined in the book that I was given. But I strongly recommend that we consider that we put them in there because as a board member, I could then have prior knowledge of what might be coming up and be able to organize my thoughts better. And right now, as you've listened to me, maybe you remember a lot that I said very quickly, maybe you don't. But to have it, I think would be beneficial. And I wonder if we couldn't streamline this to perhaps certain key committees rather than 21 or whatever it is, 19. My thoughts and my suggestions. I wonder what you thought about that.
Well, one possibility that Linda and I talked about was that as these come in, we can email them to the board members rather than fill up a board book with a lot of paper. So that, should come in over the course of the month, and it saves Linda from doing a lot of paperwork and
I think
saves a lot of trees.
Right, saves a lot of trees.
And we can limit it the number of the committees too, I think. Not to say that they're all not important, but perhaps some of the points could be covered quicker without all that time. And one final point, if I can say, and let's remember that there are secretaries on these committees that diligently put these things together. And it's not an easy job to listen to people and write it down. So just for their recognition, it's important that we see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, these will be the approved committee minutes, meeting minutes, not the unapproved.
Yeah,
not the drafts.
I guess there's no way around it.
The meeting minutes from the committees don't have to really be approved. Except by
They
the
do it.
committee,
They do it.
we don't have to do it by the board, the master board. They have to approve the minutes.
Yeah,
We know what goes on.
yeah,
The committee has to approve the minutes.
she can certainly forward the draft minutes. That's not in that way, other committees.
You even get the draft minutes?
What I can do is I can put on it as a watermark draft,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
And then you'll see in that draft that it's approved meeting minutes from the month before, which we will already have as a draft, so we'll know that it has been approved. So I won't send out the approved one, because we've got the draft, and if they've made a change, I will let ask them to know. It's just that we just need the secretary to send them to me, and I can do that. I have no problem at all. I just want to know from Dr. Quinn and Donald, like, do we do it just as soon as we get them, or what do you want? We'll
Well, what I'll do is I'll send if you give me a list of the secretaries of these various committees, I'll send an email to them asking them to send the minutes to you. And that should take care of it, hopefully.
I wonder if we shouldn't think about having proprietary tab on the website, accessible by password. I'm getting a thumbs up down there, for just the board members, for all this information, so that Linda could just scan it into that part of the website and it would just be there for the members to access. We'll talk about that.
That's good.
Let us work on that, and I think there might be a way around this that's more efficient than printing.
Good idea.
But it is a good idea, so we're up to date on what activities are doing.
That sounds like a good job
Give it done.
communication.
Just at a higher level
Why
of
don't they make
access.
a recommendation as to how to
Sure.
streamline this? In the meantime,
Absolutely,
Linda gets anything, she'll
yeah,
send
and,
it.
and we'll keep Linda in the loop on it too.
Good.
Will we?
Okay. Mark, you got anything to report on your
Actually,
committee?
for the Audubon, we had a meeting on February 25th. And just to report, all the new birdhouses, the bluebird houses have been installed. Charlie, the chairperson, is setting up a spreadsheet as to locations to be, where we can check on. Right now, it's all in his head. But the one concern from the Audubon meeting was basically on these windy days, the overspray of the water from the fountains. People are playing this and aspirating it. Water is basically toxic. If there was a possibility that when these fountains get old and destroyed, replace them with a bigger mushroom fountain that blows down instead of up, and it'll still give you the minimal amount of aeration, but it'll still give you a white noise. And it's just a thought, but if they could shut the fountains down, is there a way they can, with the wind, with an anemometer or anything, the wind gets over 50 miles an hour, because you stand on the banks, you're getting wet with it. Plus, it's not healthy for the animals, you know, so that was a concern. And that was it.
You do normally shut those fountains down when it's windy, right?
Yes, they do, yeah, but it's, it's one of those things where, like, for example, this fountain here on 9 Red and 9 Blue has an anemometer. We put that one because that's the one where we get, but I actually do like the idea. I agree that some of those fountains, if they were a different type of a display, it would actually not only be better from a standpoint of wind, it would actually be better for the lakes too, because it would provide a little bit of aeration. So that's a very good consideration, but the guys.
I think possibly get more aerators in the pond,
Exactly.
bring the quality of the water
Yeah.
up.
We need aerators a lot more than we need more fountains.
Exactly. They're more efficient, cheaper. And they clean the water so
Yeah.
much better, gets rid of
They-
the algae
yeah.
blooms much better. Much better.
Much more efficient.
Okay. Communications committee.
So the Communications Committee continues to improve the functionality of our Foxfire website. Our goal is to have members look at our Foxfire website as their 24/7 link for everything that's happening here in Foxfire, and for them to be able to do what they need to do here to enjoy their time here. In addition, the Communications Committee is working very closely with the Construction Committee to provide ongoing information as to the status of the Master Plan Golf and Amenity projects. Tappy and Chad Callanan are communication liaisons to the Construction Committee. And the intention here is that Tappy and Chad will create the, I want to say, official communication as to what's happening for the construction project. Tappy and Chad will have an article in Fox Tales. We will post that on the website also. Jim was talking about, with Donald right now about the project ongoing, but we really want to have a place and a source that members can go to and know that this is exactly what's happening. Kathy O'Brien has created a really slick, attractive graph that will appear on the website, I think around April 1st, maybe, Kathy, something like that. That shows the timeline of all these different projects and amenities moving forward. I mean, that'll constantly be updated. It's really attractive. We will have, we will have the master plan website, which will contain all relevant information and it'll be updated as the project moves forward. This will also include pictures and drone footage of the project so that members can view the progress of the project even when they're away from Foxfire. The drone was purchased. Jeremy is very excited working with it, trying to understand its capabilities, and he'll be working with us on providing drone footage and pictures. The committee also continues to work as liaison with other committees on initiatives such as creating logos, editing articles for Foxtails, and overall communication consultation. As Jim knows, the Legacy Fund and we're working with our communication companies, working with our President's Council. Chad was there. So, we are trying to add our time and expertise to help other committees to be more visible in the community. In collaboration with administration staff and other committees, the Communications Committee is assisting with a proposed ribbon cutting and member appreciation and event to sort of kick off this whole master plan project that's still in the planning stages. The role and responsibilities of the Communication Committee continues to grow and evolve, as you hear here today. Additional review of our charter, it was decided that at the present time, the charter actually reflects our mission and responsibilities at this time, and we choose not to make any amendments to it at this point. And the most exciting part of my presentation today is I move to approve Donna Healy, Fay Moy, and Pat Witt to the Communications Committee. These members have been duly vetted by the committee. Their depth of experience, both in their professional careers and here at Foxfire, will make them valuable additions to the team. So I make a motion to approve Donna Healy, Fay Moy, and Pat Witt to the Communications Committee.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay,
Foxtail Editorial Board, I participated in my first meeting of the Foxtails Editorial Board on Wednesday. It was an interesting experience to see the process of how the newsletter is reviewed, edited, and prepared for publication. The editorial board is looking for a new member to replace Don Nouse, who will be leaving the board when a replacement is found. Don is chair of the golf committee presently. We're looking for members with a background, but not limited to education, journalism, communications, editing. Members that have any of that experience are encouraged to submit their volunteer request form online, and it can be found on the Foxfire website under Community Governance tab, under Standing Committees, or you can reach out to the committee chair, Judy, or myself, and we'd be pleased to speak with you about it. And the Health and Wellness Committee, Judy Freitag, founder of the Health and Wellness Committee, has stepped down from active community membership. We are deeply grateful for her vision and service to our community. Mary Ferreira has stepped into the role of Chair of Health and Wellness for the years 2021 to 2023, and Betsy Cole has moved to Chair Emeritus. The Health and Wellness Committee continues to offer workshops. In February, Aileen Staler presented an informative workshop on heart health. In February and March, there were presentations on mindfulness, a practice to reduce stress levels, and the benefits of adding mindfulness to one's health routine. And this presentation was done by Betsy Cole and Melissa Kay, who is a certified teacher of mindfulness. On April 14th, there will be a workshop on mindfulness with dance, and the committee is considering workshops such as nutrition, Step Smart, hurricane preparedness, amongst others. Foxfire members have joined the Blue Zone Track Your Trek to the Moon community-wide step challenge. Participants enter their steps accumulated toward reaching a goal of walking to the moon. The committee continues to build out their website portal with relevant information. There you'll find Blue Zone principles, recipes, and TED Talks. The Health and Wellness Committee has a truly diverse and talented group of members enthusiastic to help members live healthy lives. The committee would welcome members with professional health care or health administrative experience to their committee. Again, members can submit their volunteer request form online and under community governance standing committees, or reach out to a committee chair, Mary Pereira. And that's that for me.
Okay. There's no correspondence that I'm aware of.
Bill, if I could just, because we have so many lists here, we didn't say Memorial Committee. The only reason it came up, I was listening to what Donald said about the fountains and the aerations. And I'm wondering if we just shouldn't, maybe they should or shouldn't. But the aeration fountains could be funded by the Memorial Committee. It's been done in the past for fountains. And there are a few lakes out there now that have no fountain at all. I'm saying 4 silver, 8 silver, things like that. And if in fact the aeration would improve the quality of the water, and I assume whatever lives in that water, it might be something we should consider. I just wanted to bring
Finding
that
our
up.
balls too.
Well, 4 silver is pretty green right now, and I'm sure it could use a little bit of a welcome.
Yeah,
So I just thought I'd bring up. the suggestion.
Aeration those in those lakes would really help. I mean, it made
Yeah.
a tremendous difference on Two Red.
It did. So I just thought I'd bring it up.
Okay. Kathy, has anybody indicated a desire to speak? If not, the next meeting is April 16th. And is there any other business anyone wishes to discuss? Motion to adjourn. Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.